It was very dramatic, but then I was very dramatic back then as well, because I'd grown up with these relationships around me that were all very dramatic. So I thought that was how you had to be. To me, I thought that was love, if you were, like being like Den and Ange from EastEnders.
Hello, I am Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, a podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories they created there, and the people that they used to know. Jamal is the Bristol-based lead singer of electronic pick-and-mix duo This Human Condition, which has been described as an early Depeche Mode meets a darker Erasure. We caught up to discuss Just, a nightclub which was open between 1994 and 1999 in Bristol, England. We talk all about guncles, which, if you don't know, are gay uncles, keeping cool on the dance floor, and add to the age-old debate, who is better, Kylie or Madonna?
It very much had a cool element to it, rather than the cheesy element of some clubs. It didn't have that thing of let's just play all the cheesy gay music.
Yeah, the gays love that.
Which I've always had a problem with that, because although I love some of it, I'm pretty eclectic in my tastes, as I'm sure you are. Being a musician, I think. Whereas my boyfriend, he just he's just a pop head, and that's it. Whereas I need a bit more from my music. I need to do a bit more work than just listen to Britney,
Yeah, when you have that one particular club in your life that you go to every week.
Yeah.
If they play the same music every week, it just becomes oh, fuck this song again.
I know, because there's so much great music out there. Why are you playing this shit? And why do you think that we deserve this shit? And more importantly, why aren't you screaming about it, and saying we don't want this shit? I don't want to listen to the Venga Boys, or no offense to people who like it,
Oh no, and if I hadn't heard the Venga Boys in 3 years, and a song came on, I'd be like, yay, let's get,
exactly.
This.
I don't want it
memories.
week after week.
Yeah, if it's week after week, it's shut this crap off.
Yeah. I suppose that's why I've got such fond memories of Just, is that it didn't do what other clubs did in Bristol, which was the predictable kind of, get a drag act in, put on some
Kylie,
yeah, or let's have a Kylie evening, or yeah. Funny story about Kylie, actually. For years, obviously, I was obsessed with the whole Neighbours thing, and loved it at the time. And then I famously, when I moved to Devon, I was listening to a lot of the Stock Aitken and Waterman stuff, a bit of a, pop head, and then went to Devon, and then the chap next door was quite gorgeous, and we ended up smoking dope together. So within the space of 2 weeks, I went from listening to Sonia to Led Zeppelin. So I was musically saved.
Wait. Did you change your musical taste because you fancied a man?
I think so, yeah. But I actually did also recognise that it did sound better, than
You'll Never Stop Me from Loving You.
Yeah. Although that's place, and I still got some of those tracks that I still got affection for.
I was listening to Mel and Kim yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Respectable. Or Weekend.
So good.
Those two in particular were really great. And they had a cool element to them, didn't they?
Yeah.
Whereas Sonia was pure, just grin and cheese. And Kylie's obviously amazing.
It still is.
Yeah. So Kylie's obviously amazing at what she does. So for years I would just say about this singing budgie, I don't like Kylie's tonal quality. I would slag her off for a bit. I love Confide in Me, and more of her, Where the Wild Roses Grow. Some of her more experimental stuff. However, cut to last year, I was at Glastonbury, I thought, oh, I'll finally go and see Kylie, because I'd always protested I didn't want to, and I was right at the front. Anyway, it was my phone kept buzzing off in my pocket. The cameraman obviously took a shine to me, and there's lots of clips of me enjoying myself to Kylie.
Oh, are you mouthing along? Or?
Yeah, singing, everything, but not just one shot, loads of shots. And I'm even dressed up, and people still recognise me. So I had to finally accept my gay card again. Friends used to joke that because I didn't like Kylie, I'd have to hand in my gay card. But yeah, she's incredible. I still don't like her voice, though. It's the quality, the
what
tone.
A catalogue.
I know. Obviously, she's so, she wrapped into gay culture, isn't she? But I suppose Madonna was my real one. Back then, Madonna was really out there.
So in the 90s, was it that you had to choose? You had to pick sides? Was it like a Blur Oasis thing? You had to pick Madonna or Kylie?
Yeah, I think you did, yeah. I think if somebody said they'd like Kylie over Madonna, you'd be like,
clutch my pearls.
Worth talking to. Next. Because Madonna she did a lot for gay people. She really stuck her neck on the line with AIDS and stuff like that. She was very vocal. Kylie never did any of that. She just smiled and got on with it. So for me, Madonna. How about you? Would you have been Kylie or Madonna?
I don't know. I don't know. There was never. I really need to think about this. I think it might fluctuate. So I think growing up, I wouldn't have been either one. I was just whatevs about them both.
Yeah.
I was never because I think there's this thing when you're a musician, isn't there, where you have to go through a period where you're a bit snobby.
Yes.
And
totally
so I
agree.
went through a period where I was a bit snobby, and that meant that I was kind of I can appreciate, and I could definitely appreciate, confide in me, and put yourself in my place.
Yeah.
And then from Madonna, I can appreciate Secret and that kind of that was kind of the same time.
Happiness lies in your own hand. I always love that.
Oh, I just got that. But yeah, neither of them I really cared about that much until the last few years when I've oh, do you know what? You've got some really good songs in your back catalogue.
Yeah. Especially, the erotica era. I remember the Sex book. Did you ever see that book?
No, I haven't seen the book. I've seen selected photos from it, but
so it came in a foil wrapper. It was released alongside the erotica album, which was about 93, I think. And you had to be 18 to buy it. So I was in town with my late grandmother. And I said, "Oh, I've got the money. Could you go and buy me this book, please?" Bless her heart, she did. She just gave it to me and said, "I don't even want to know what's in it." And I remember looking in it, and it was, photos of guys together, and so probably the most pornographic stuff I'd seen at that point. Yeah, and some of them turned me on, and obviously there was lots of Madonna. The centerpiece of the book is just Madonna's minge. She really. But what I love about that is she was like, "No, fuck you. I'll do exactly what I want to do. If I want to take all my clothes off and do a sex book about my fantasies, I will." And she got vilified for it, didn't she, by some people?
Yeah.
And her career did take a dip for a little while. But she, didn't stop her. And she to me was a really strong woman that I could identify with. Like I said, I didn't really have any gay male role models. So women were the strong ones in my life. And Madonna very much represented that from a point of view of me being into music, really, really into music, as I'm sure you were. So yeah, what she was speaking about to me really spoke volumes. It gave me a bit of fire in my belly, whereas Kylie never really did that. She was just sweet and nice.
So you're definitely Count Madonna then?
Definitely. I would say overall, if I had to save one, it would probably be Madonna. Sorry, Kylie fans.
Save. What?
Sorry, I would save Madonna. You know, if that thing, if you...
Well, so there's someone who's like kidnapped them both and is going to murder one, and you make the decision.
No. So if you were in a boat and you could only save one, both just had one hand on each, and you could only pull one back up, who would you pull up? Actually, no, maybe I would go with Kylie because she would be easier to pull up. I don't know.
Yeah. And which one has the most silicon? Because they might just float.
That would be Madonna. Yes. Probably save Kylie. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Maybe I am more like you, chopping and changing.
Okay. All right. So back to Just. Do you remember your first time there?
Actually, I don't. No. But I worked it out. So I was living in Lawrence Weston at the time. I just moved back from Devon. I lived on a farm for a couple of years in Devon when I was 16. So I needed to come back, so I was starting to explore who I was. So my friend was a family friend who was Barry, and then we called him Carl, but I called him Patsy.
So wait. His name was Barry. Everyone called him Carl, but except for you called him Patsy.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes perfect sense.
He changed his name from Barry to Carl, but I never liked Carl. I thought Carl didn't suit him, but Patsy did. Said he looks like Mick Hucknall. He would often get mistaken for Mick Hucknall at a garage or something. He's quite a character. So I think we went together for the first time. And coming back from Devon, I was smoking a lot of dope and stuff. And I remember we smoked dope together and drank, when we went out. And I remember going in quite early and saying, why is everyone drinking water? Because I've been in Devon. I mean, literally the e-culture and all that really taken off down there. It was still about the hippie and the spliff. So it took us a few weeks to sort of completely understand what was going on, to be honest.
So you just thought everyone was sober?
Yeah, I'm like, what's wrong with them? Why are they drinking water? But we're having fun, so it wasn't a problem. It's just that we noticed. But maybe we noticed how much we were drinking.
And how much more awake everyone else was.
Yeah. We both had long hair, and I remember we went to the toilets. We'd often soak our hair because we got so hot. We used to dance all the time without the drugs. And then we used to just shake our hair around, on the dance floor like a pair of dogs, really. And poppers. Poppers was a massive thing in there. It always smelled of poppers, and you could buy poppers behind the bar.
Okay. So let's talk about this, because poppers are a very gay thing.
Yeah.
And poppers originally, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm just going to assume
Amyl
some
nitrate.
People don't know what it is. They were... What? It's a bottle of liquids.
It's called amyl nitrate.
It's not amyl nitrate. It used to be, and then they changed the recipe or something. Anyway, I've done a Wikipedia search, so I know everything.
Okay. I've got old knowledge. So. It's like a room odorizer, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was
that's how it's advertised.
Yeah. I never knew this, though. I just thought it was for dancing. I learned the other bit after.
I'm pretty sure that
my uncle always did it. Even when we sat in, he was like, "Do you want some poppers?" Because we danced in his front room, and then it's like, yeah. So it was just. I thought it helped you with dancing. I mean, I was quite young when I started sniffing it. I guess I was probably 14, 15.
Okay, so I've just put it up on Wikipedia, and again, just for anyone who doesn't know, popper use has a relaxation effect on involuntary smooth muscles, such as those in the throat and the anus. So it's used to, to enable to get rid of your gag reflex.
And this I discovered much later. Works lovely.
Okay, so anyway, people were using poppers to dance, like part of their dancing routine.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I just don't get that. Does it not make you lightheaded?
Yeah, it gives you a real kind of. But we used to go with it. I used to love it.
Does it not like
It would
freak
really
you
spin
out?
you out. No,
Oh.
no, it enhanced the music, and it didn't last for too long. You know, it was just like a heady rush, wasn't it? And if it was your favourite song and you were shaking your wet head around like we were, it's great.
But you're doing it with like all these people around you in a sweaty space.
I did remember spilt some on somebody's backpack that they had on the dance floor once. It was a small dance floor, and
Someone had a backpack on the dance floor.
yeah, and of course everyone had a fag in their hand as well. And I remember I caught her bag on fire and then just threw my pint over her bag and put her out.
Wait. So how much on fire?
It was just like a
Okay,
flame.
phew.
I think it just spilled a bit on her bag. You know, somebody sort of knocked your elbow as you went in for a sniff. You had one fag in one hand, this popper's in the other hand. Somebody knocked your elbow, went on her bag, and then there was another cigarette. I think probably with my cigarette lit it, and then had to get my pint off the shelf and throw it at her.
There's a lesson here, listeners.
There is.
Be careful
This
with
was
your
the
poppers.
90s. I mean, that would never happen now, would it? Because presumably you wouldn't be able to do either in a club.
Oh no, you can still do poppers, can't you?
Well, I'm sure you get people saying something, wouldn't you?
Would you?
You could, of course you could. Well, maybe in a gay place, but well, the younger generation are used to just fart smells in clubs, aren't they? Not fags and poppers, you know? But they don't even sell it behind the bar. That tells me that they don't want it in their venue.
So anyway, describe the venue to me.
So it's a really small venue in Phoenix Court, Fairfax Street. I'm reading from this bit, so I wouldn't remember. It was opened in late '94 by Winston Bright and a guy called John. I don't remember his surname. And it was a former Scarlet Coat premise, which was a restaurant run by two gay women, and they had a disco twice a week. I never went to that or knew about it, obviously not being lesbian either. But even I've never heard my lesbian friends talk about it either. So the last night of Just was on March the 20th, 1999, because the lease was sold to a developer. Winston then opened Wins in West Street, Old Market, with a chap called Julian. I called that venue the Sticky Carpet Club. But anyway, back to Just. It was painted black from the outside, and from what I remember, and it just had a tiny little sign just saying Just. There were no windows. It was upstairs was a restaurant, and this was kind of downstairs on Fairfax Street. So it didn't even look like a venue, really. You know, it wasn't. I guess gay venues where it was about being hidden, wasn't it? Sometimes.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was just a door that you went in. That was it.
And when you went through the door, what happened?
Yeah, there was a little booth where they take money on the weekend. We often didn't pay because we knew everyone anyway. There was ladies' toilets on the right, gents' toilets on the right, a big long bar on the left, and then then you had some seats, and then right down the end you had the dance floor, and then that was it. So the dance floor probably could fit about 40 people on it, maybe. Mm-hmm. And that had a stairwell behind the back of the DJ. The DJ was also on the dance floor, where you could sort of go and sit and do other things.
Ooh,
shall we say?
Other things? Tell me
other
more.
Things. I don't know, like snogging or blowjobs, or I saw all sorts of things around there. But most of the action, to be honest, went on in the men's toilets. You couldn't really go in there without being groped at some point.
That's gross.
Yeah, so I used to go to the ladies if I just wanted an innocent wee. And then some of the ladies would get a bit funny, you know, because there was only 2 toilets in there. And they were taken up by drag queens or men. So I can understand it now.
Yeah.
I did actually meet a girl in there called Jo, and I'm still friends with her to this day. But if I wanted to do other things, I would go into the men's. I remember somebody saying what we need in here is a dark room, and I punched the light and that went out. And but yeah, that was quite a night.
You just punched the light out in the toilet?
It was quite dimly lit anyway. I think it was like a green or red light. So it was quite dingy and dark anyway. but obviously punching the light out just meant that people could really go for it.
Make full use of the poppers they'd brought with them.
Full use, yeah. Early on in the evening, people would actually go in the cubicle and be a bit more private, but later in the evening, when people are a bit more confident, shall we say, or anything went, really. And I got well involved at times. It was lovely. I wasn't always in the mood for it, but if I was, it was a great distraction from the dancing. That it would often be a really great tune that would bring me back out to the dance floor, to be honest. And I'd be like, Patsy. It was our song, and we'd have to go out,
Just pull yourself away from the erect penis you were entertaining yourself with and hot foot it to the dance floor.
Yeah.
And so what was the crowd kind of like there? You said before that there were women, but was it like predominantly men or?
No, it was a real diverse mix of everyone I remember masculine guys with their tops off. I remember black people, lesbians, trannies, as we called them back then. It just seemed to be guys that went out. Thursdays was tranny night, and I used to love Thursdays. We used to dress up a lot as well, Patsy and I. Patsy used to make dresses, and then we'd go out in those, or I went out dressed as Boy George one night, or... Yeah, so we were really into dressing up as well. So talking, and Patsy was a real character. I was more learning back then. I suppose I've become more of a character. But he was showing me the ropes back then, I guess, because he was 9 years older than me. And he was great with people. People loved him. So yeah, to answer your question, it was just such a great mix, whereas I used to go to this other pub called The Elephant, and there was a lesbian corner, and the guys, you go in and it could be quite bitchy and intimidating, but just never felt like that to me. It was sort of anything went.
Yeah. So let's talk about you for a minute then. So what was going on in your life at that time?
I moved to Devon when I was on my 16th birthday. So I was coming back weekends. So I was already starting to go to another club with my friend Patsy called Oasis. And I remember I was very young when I went in there. So it must have been just 16. I remember this chap waving some money around in front of my face, and Patsy was off chatting to somebody else. And he came back and said, "Oh, he's with me." And I was like, "Why are you being horrible to him? He was just, and he thought I was a rent boy." But I was that innocent that I just thought he'd been kind.
Just kindly waving money in your face.
Just being kind, yeah. And I remember going to an AIDS night, and they played piano often on a Sunday. It was all quite civilized. So I came back to Bristol in 92, and then obviously we went to the Elephant, the Griffin, which were pubs. And he was really well known on the scene, so he used to introduce me as his uncle. He wasn't really. Just my mother used to look after him actually when he was a boy, so that's how I knew him. I was lucky, I guess. I had him to introduce me to everyone, and he was really well loved and liked. So then, when we heard about this Just opening, we went there. That's how I got there.
So I'm intrigued about Patsy. Let's talk a bit more about him. Firstly, why did you come up with that nickname for him?
It came from Absolutely Fabulous, which started in 92. We used to go to this straight pub called the Blaze Inn, which was a really rough cider house. And we would go there before we would go out clubbing. So we'd already get a bit tanked up on cider. They called us Patsy and Eddie. They said we were like, the characters. We were just sat at the bar bitching, really. Lots of banter. That's what it was about. Lots of laughter. So yeah, they actually gave us that name, Patsy and Eddie. So going into this straight pub where we were both out, and obviously Ab-Fab was really big back in 92.
And you said that he was really well known and well liked. What was it about him that kind of attracted people, that drew them in?
He was such a storyteller. Obviously had masses of ginger curls, then later sort of matted, and So yeah, to look at, like I said earlier, he looked like Mick Hucknall, who was also very big at the time. And he did actually get stopped in a garage once and asked for his autograph, and he gave it. I don't think he really liked people comparing him to Mick Hucknall, because I don't think Mick Hucknall was considered, good looking. He was probably a bit better looking than Mick, but what was it about him? Good question. He was just really colourful and humorous, lightning sense of humour. I guess he had. He could just make lots of people laugh and hold court, and he loved dressing up, and he was really out there. For me, who was not, I'm really shy back then, it was a great tonic, really, because I was able to go out and have the kind of night I wanted. But would I have done it without him? Probably not. I mean, I did venture out a few times on my own, and I remember just like reading a magazine, having a quick pint and leave it, and it was terrifying.
So he kind of took you under his wing. Was he always there kind of supporting you?
Yeah. He obviously knew from a young age that I was probably going to turn out to be gay. He obviously saw, every dog knows their own and all that.
Oh, I don't know that phrase.
Don't you? Oh, I talked to him a lot about coming out, actually, because I wasn't out back then. Although I was going out with him and being in these gay venues, I mean, that was just such a great escapism from life, because I could be myself when I was out. But take away, when I wasn't going out, I was pretending to be as society, made you feel.
So does that mean that you weren't out, or does that mean that you were just kind of keeping your head down a little?
I was conform. I wasn't comfortable with saying I'm gay. I never really wanted to be gay, to be honest. I mean, no, I don't feel that same way now. I'm really pleased now. But back then, no, I struggled. I mean, there was it was all around you, wasn't it? All this,
That's really interesting, because I was gonna ask like whether or not you had any reflections on how much easier it was for you having the presence of a queer man in your life, because most people growing up in the 80s and the 90s, there was no representation, there was no kind of queer faces or queer voices that people could relate to. And so I just kind of wondered whether having someone in your life that acted as that role model made it kind of easier in any way.
Yes, in his company, totally. Just accepted me for what I was. I didn't have to pretend. I could say who I fancied. I could talk about sex. We could do drugs together. He was the perfect person for me back then, really. Actually, my mum had gay friends. She was quite cool with it. But interestingly, I still wasn't comfortable being able to come out to her. Not to anyone, really. I just couldn't say those few short words. Just couldn't do it. I think I must have been about 19 when I eventually did. So between 16 and 19, really struggled with it, actually. Even before that, I'm moving to Devon. I mean, who's going to relate to you in Devon? I didn't find anyone. Hence why I used to come back on the weekends, and eventually thought, I've got to move back.
But so then between the ages of 16 and 19, you were going to gay bars, but you weren't really identifying as gay.
I think probably went in when I was about 14. I think about 89 was the first time I went into an Oasis. Yeah, and it was men only as well, but nobody stopped me and said, you're too young, or I don't remember going to the bar, but I was certainly drinking. Nobody questioned it.
And so then, like at 14, when you were going to these bars, were you thinking, yeah, I'm probably gay, or was it just that you were going out because it was a bar and you wanted to drink?
Oh, I absolutely knew I was, yeah, because the minute I went in there, I was petrified, half petrified, half really excited, But I just didn't have the courage to do it on my own. Although I did try a few times, it was never the same. So when I was out with Patsy, it was like he would walk in and just be able to, own the place, as it were, with his humour, and people would just fall around, chat and gravitate towards him, because he was a fun character to be around, and I loved that. And I I suppose that's how I was learning. I'm more like that now as a person, but back then I guess I was just learning from him. Very quick, clever wits he had.
So was he the person that you came out to first?
Yeah. Actually, no. Well, yes and no. I didn't have to. He just said you're gay, and that's it.
By the way, I've noticed that you're gay.
Yeah, it was not even a question or an option. It was just like, well, you're gay. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not. Well, yes, you are. Don't lie. It was more like that,
That's like my coming out story. That was like with my mum. She just kind of kept saying, by the way, you're gay. And like, I'm totally cool with it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Oh, did you find that awkward?
Well, I don't know. So it was kind of like she would say it to me, like even before I knew. I was kind of one of those kids that everyone would kind of come up to in the schoolyard or just randomly point at and say, by the way, you're going to be gay when you're older. So it wasn't like this thing that happened. And when it happened, I was like, oh God, what? Oh, I have no idea what this is. It was something that people had been, giving me the heads up about. But anyway, so my mum was like, just before I had any inkling of my sexuality or any sexual thoughts, she kind of kept saying, oh, by the way, I just want to let you know that if any of my kids turn out to be gay, I'll be totally cool with it. And we can like hang out. And, I love you and accept you for whatever you are. And she would just bring this up randomly every like month or so. Until one day, eventually, I was just like, yes, okay, I'm gay, yes. And that was probably like 2 or 3 days after I'd figured it out for myself.
Well, I remember driving in the car with Mother, and she just said, so are you gay then? It made it really easy for me. But like you said, I just wasn't, I knew I was, I just wasn't comfortable saying those words at that time, and I felt a bit cheated because I wanted to sit her down and
give
cry.
Her the speech.
Yeah, expecting that. I think everything I'd read or a lot of the stories were quite negative, so I was expecting, and I'm like, I was almost a bit.
Oh, this is anticlimactic.
Yeah, so I didn't get my big dramatic moment, and now I've got a really shit story to tell. Mum was really cool with it. However, Dad was a different story. He would call me Nancy boy and stuff like that growing up. Or I remember I had a black girlfriend at primary school, and he would tease me about that. Yeah. So I was really didn't want to come out to him. However, one night
sorry, were your parents together then?
No, sorry, no, they were done by the time I was 2, so I never remember them together. So I met this chap actually on the dance floor of Just, called Lee, and he was crying, and I fell in love.
Obviously, let me save you.
Sure. Exactly. I was a rescuer, and anyway, so he moved into my bedsit, and we dared each other. So he dared me to write a letter to my dad telling him I was gay, and I did. But I didn't just tell him I was gay. I said I was a bisexual transvestite, and that I wanted the whole world to know about it. Again, going in for this real dramatic, trying to get my moment because I didn't get it with Mum. So, yeah, I sent the letter as well because he was like, "Oh, you won't." I thought if I leave it till the morning, I won't do it. So I just went and posted it, and he actually wrote me back a lovely letter. To be fair. Yeah, ruined it again. I know.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Would it help if I was like somehow outraged at you right now?
Yes, please.
So what did you write back?
He was very concerned that I wanted the whole world to know about it. But her friend come out to him at work, so he was sort of relating to it through that, saying he was fine with his friend. And but this surprised me, because of calling me shirt lifter and Nancy boy when I was younger. I was really surprised by that. I thought he was just gonna, and he saw it as his duty to go around the family and tell them. So I didn't I didn't have to do it with my nan, who was
Just
very...
robbing you left, right, and center of those dramatic moments.
I know, totally robbed.
But isn't it kind of really weird that, like, it feels as though there's this sort of kind of weird psychology with some parents where they think that if they keep pointing out your queerness and your gayness and like mock you for it, that somehow that will work as this kind of aversion therapy where you'll be so determined to prove them wrong that you'll end up straight.
Yeah.
Kind of a really fucked up way of bringing a child into the world.
Oh yeah. Well, I knew from a young age I didn't want to be anything like him. The only thing about him I liked was the fact he was a musician, because when he was doing music, he was lovely. Actually, he was happy. But take away the music, I didn't really relate to him, like him, or anything. So yeah, the only thing I've taken from him is the music aspect, I guess. But as a young kid, I knew that what he was saying was not right, you know? And I didn't really have any male role models growing up. I suppose Patsy filled that shoe eventually.
Anyway, so just. Do you remember hearing about it closing?
Yeah, I went to the last night. I looked back in my diary, actually, which is why I knew it. It closed on that night, on the 20th of March, 1999.
So wait, have you been keeping diaries for the last however many years?
Yeah, there's a few years missing from when I was taking too many drugs. But yeah, I pretty much do. I keep a roll for... So, sometimes there's weeks where I've written nothing. I might have written things like, like I did, just closed last night, or I fell out with Patsy, or had sex, or something like that. Highlights. I didn't necessarily write every detail.
Came twice.
Yeah, came twice.
Sorry, so I've distracted us. So you wrote in your diary about the last night. What was it like?
I don't remember too much other than it was really sad. I remember just drinking, I think the drinks were even free come the end. Oh, there was another really interesting thing that I forgot to mention. On a Sunday night, we had laws in this country. I don't think you could serve alcohol past 10 on a Sunday night back then. So there'd be these amazing lock-ins, and there was a vending machine, like a Coke machine type thing, where you could get beer out of. I thought that was brilliant. So yeah, the bar would actually shut down. So if anyone came in, they could clearly see the bar was shut. But yeah, we just used to get drinks out of the vending machine. But it wasn't advertised as beer. It was just, I thought that was genius.
Just the way of getting around it.
I've never been into any other club or place was like that. They usually did what they were told, didn't they? Yeah. So, anything went, really. That was what I loved about Just. I think there didn't seem to be any rules. Apart from squaring up to the bouncer that would get you kicked out. And I can't remember what that was over, to be honest. But pretty much, you could have sex in the toilet, sniff poppers. You could pretty much do what you wanted. Put your feet on stools.
Kick the women out of the women's bathroom.
Cry on the dance floor. You could wet your hair and shake it by the electric lights. There was... Nowadays, I see people... All these rules, there just were no rules, really. I don't think I ever remember any police going in there. Or any... Don't really remember any fights or any trouble, either. Apart from with me.
Did you ever go to Just? Well, if you did, I would love to hear from you. Please tell me any stories or share any anecdotes or photos that you have from that time. You can reach me via social media on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc., with the user handle @KAndersonMusic. And you can also find out more about Jamie's band, This Human Condition, at www.thishumancondition.com. And on top of that, he has a new act named Flux, which you can find out all about at twitter.com/FluxMusicUK. Lost Spaces is not only a podcast, but a concept record as well. I've been writing songs about queer venues and the people who used to live their lives there, and will be releasing songs over the coming year. You can hear the first single, Well Grown Boys, which is also playing underneath my talking right this very second on all streaming platforms. If you like this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, left a review on Apple Podcasts, or just told people who you think might be interested in having a listen too. I am Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.